Oh, wait. I think we could start now. Hi, everyone. My name is Sina. Thanks so much for joining today. Today, we're going to chat about how to set up an effective taxonomy for your research repository. A little bit more about that in a few seconds. So I'm not here alone today. So I have Roberta with me. Roberta, do you want to say hi as well?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you today. My name's Roberta. I'm the VP of User Research at User Interviews.
So my name is Sina. I'm a UX researcher myself at Condens. And if you haven't heard of Condens yet, I will give you like a quick overview. Condens combines research data analysis and research repository in one tool. It helps you and your team to store, structure, and analyze user research data coming from a wide range of research studies like user interviews, prototype tests, usability tests, diary studies, and lets you share research results in an instant. Using Condens for research analysis will also help you to build a repository while you're doing that, and will give you like a structured and searchable database. And Roberta is here from User Interviews.
Yeah.
Do you want to take over?
Absolutely. User Interviews is the fastest way to find research participants for any type of research study you might be running. We actually have a panel of over 800,000 participants that you can tap into, connect with them, and then learn insights about your product or service. We also help you connect with your own customers faster by taking away all of the really painful logistics like NDAs, emails, incentives if you're doing any type of user research, allowing you to really enjoy the things that you love, which is research, and spend more time on that. So we're definitely really excited to be partnering with Condens today for this session.
Yeah, I just can say the same. Really happy to do this together today. So some logistics. We do, I said it before, but if you just joined, we will record the session and share it with you afterwards. And we do have a chat, so please feel free to say hi in the chat and ask your questions there. We will have time to answer some of them at the end of our session today. Cool, so today we're going to speak about taxonomy. We want to speak a little bit about how to set up an effective taxonomy for your research repository and what that even is. And also why we think, so we had a lot of preparation before, and why we think it's important to really create a taxonomy that works for your unique setting and that can evolve. So a taxonomy is a robust text structure and is like a central element of research repository. And like this robust text structure, that is what is often called the taxonomy. And today we want to speak about the general principles and also share lessons learned that you can take away when you are about to get started with creating your own taxonomy, or when you want to take this as a moment to reflect on the taxonomy you already have in your repository. So to make clear what we're speaking about, a little super short or brief description of what we mean by research repository and taxonomy. So in our understanding, and also to frame for today's session, research repositories is the central place for storing research data, findings, and artifacts like a research report or your personas. And like within research repositories, the taxonomy is often central as a core element, central to research repositories. And this is the structure or the set of tags or codes that you use to categorize your research data that is stored in the research repository. So like the set of tags that you use to go through interview studies or statements from participants and to prepare it for further analysis and to find it afterwards. Okay. So from our point of view, like a good taxonomy really helps you to extend the reach and the value of user research data beyond the scope of a single study. So like a good taxonomy will help you to make make information findable and to use it like after a single research project. And sorry, 1 second. So it allows you to fast find existing research data, to gather new insights from existing research data, and like in general helps you to push, as you can access the research data beyond a single study. In general helps you to push the drive of push evidence-based decision making. So it helps you to make the data findable, to sum it up. And today we've brought with us like a few principles we want to share with you that you can apply when you're in the process of creating your own taxonomy. So our first principle, or first thing we want to speak about today, like a taxonomy is like an organism. So like from our point of view, it's not something that you do or create once and then it's done, but it's rather something that you create and it evolves over time. Do you want to take over, Roberta?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that our team at User Interviews is definitely experiencing firsthand right now. Creating our first taxonomy for the first time ever. We started probably 2 months ago, and it's definitely an evolution, an iterative cycle that is constantly transforming as we learn new insights and adjust it. So it's a living, breathing thing. It's a system to think about for you and your team.
Mm-hmm.
Taxonomies are really robust tag structures. They're really the centralized element of your repository, like Sina mentioned. Really the benefit of an effective taxonomy is that it helps you get insights without having to actually go through each research session again, or even conduct new research. What I often find with teams that we speak to is they default to already conducting a new study if they don't have a taxonomy or repository, because it's just easier than going through all of the artifacts that they might have had from a previous study. So if you set up an effective taxonomy, you actually can start to search through historical data, take advantage of it, and then save time in the long run. Maybe you don't need to run a study because you already have the existing information, which is really great. So really less effort, and then answering those questions you have more precisely for your team. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about some general principles. Obviously, the first one is really that the taxonomy is a living, breathing organism. One thing that we do want to mention is that every taxonomy is going to be different. Every single company, every single organization is completely different. So the taxonomy that we're creating at User Interviews and have been for the last 4 months is going to be really different than the taxonomy at Condens or any one of their customers that they have. And there's really no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to creating your team's taxonomy.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And like in my role, so like I am a UX researcher, so I work with our own taxonomy, but I also like see like taxonomies, or I am involved in the process of our customers when they create their taxonomy, and they are all completely different and also need to be different to work for their setting and organization.
Absolutely. Another thing to keep in mind as that taxonomy is evolving and changing over time, the structure that you create today on day one even is not going to be the same one that you have a month from now, 6 months from now. It's constantly going to be evolving, iterating as you have new insights, new data coming in. And what's actually most important is that you create a flexible environment for your taxonomy. So really checking to see, can we rename the name of the tags that we use? Can we merge tags together? Can we edit tags? Can we change rules, make groups? That'll make it really flexible and adaptable as your taxonomy is changing over time. You also want to look at the tags that start to emerge from grounded theory. For those unfamiliar with grounded theory, it's a research methodology. You develop your hypothesis while you're actually collecting and analyzing data. So as you're going through, you're building your taxonomy, you can start to create new tags. New tags will emerge from the data, from the hypotheses that you uncover over time from the information. Another thing that you can do is actually start to think about what might be useful from existing research that you may have. If you're starting your taxonomy for the first time, some of the things that we did was actually look at historical studies and start to get like a little kickstart, jump start to actually starting to create some of the tags that we had. You'll probably want to have really a predefined list of some overarching tags and information. And then you'll also have tags that will vary from study to study. You also don't want to end up with like 300 tags. So you'll typically want to start off like small, and then you can expand over time as it grows. So it'll get more robust as time goes on.
Yeah. Okay, so like it will evolve and grow over time, but nevertheless, you need a place to start, and we want to like share a few like entry points how you can get started with taxonomy, even if it's flexible. So keep in mind that when you're creating a taxonomy, you are not just creating it for around the content you're entering, so your research data, your research material you have, but also it needs to reflect the internal user's perspective in the same way. And by that, we're speaking about the people who will actually use the taxonomy. So like the internal end users. So maybe other researchers, but often it's not just the researchers, but other roles beyond the research team who will be using the taxonomy to find information, research data for their work and to help to use evidence for their decisions. It's not the only way that like non-researchers can like access research data. So the taxonomy is not the only way. There are other ways like grouping for participants or research methods, like other ways, but the taxonomy can be a crucial part of that as well. So we want to speak a little bit about including the perspective of these internal users when getting started with your taxonomy and being more human-centered in that aspect as well.
Yeah, one of the things that we did when we first started on our journey while creating our taxonomy is we considered our users our internal stakeholders, like Sina mentioned. So our team is centralized at User Interviews. We have our research team, heavy users of our repository taxonomy. Then we also thought about product managers, marketing team, operations team, and we also thought about our customers as well. How would we define their experiences? And so we actually sat down, did some working sessions as a group, really thought about the type of questions that we got from stakeholders on a recurring basis. And that gave us insight into what tags we might need to create. If we're constantly getting certain questions, that's going to be how we're going to be searching to find data within the actual tool that we picked as well. And so some things that we thought about were like usability issues, pain points, feature requests, specific product areas. My team and I actually thought about the whole funnel of our customer journey as well. We typically will get like top of the funnel questions from marketing, sales. How do people buy our products? What are they looking for? What do people say? Then post-purchase, what are customers saying? What is their experience like from our different products? And then we also have our research panel. So that's another some like bucket of questions. And so we just bucketed all of those, and it gave us really a high level picture of how we might set up our taxonomy and the tags that we would start to create. Really recommend doing some working sessions with your team beforehand to get their thoughts as well.
Yeah, good idea. Also like in the process to get their input, but maybe when you have like a first version to like share it with some roles that are involved, or you want to work with the taxonomy in the future to gather some feedback as well.
Totally. Awesome.
All right.
Principle 3 is similar to understanding starting with the end user, but it's really the concept of understanding how your organization works. We just talked a little bit about understanding your end user, what stakeholders are going to be using it. In the same way, your taxonomy is a system, so is your company, your team. There's information, data flowing in and out. There's different people, there's sales, there's marketing. Understanding what's important for them is going to set you, your taxonomy, your repository up for success in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's almost, I would say it's an extension of our previous principle where you involve your stakeholders and collect the questions they are already asking you about. So we really want to like think of the users who are embedded in an organization, and they are embedded in a unique organization. So like, as we said in the beginning, every taxonomy will be different because every organization is different. So really bring in that aspect as well. So like the previous point, we were speaking about like collecting the questions from your stakeholders and how they currently work together with your research team. But you can also take time to understand really your organization and the teams they're working in, and include like information about the departments and business lines as well in that stage. So ask yourself who will need to find information and also in which depth. So this can be different regarding for the different teams. Maybe some of them will really need to like go in and find really all raw research data, but others have need only to get a higher level view of the material there as well. And also like one thing I want to mention here, like when you think about the different teams or the organization in general, I think in every organization there is like internal vocabulary, like a unique language almost that you definitely should include. So this is always there. So make use of it, use the language that the people who need to work with it use already, and make sure to include that view and in that stage of creating a taxonomy as well. So when you've done that, I think it's like as a side effect, you will not just like get that view and like bring in that organizational aspect into your taxonomy, but also taking like internal structures into account will help you to really identify themes to incorporate in the process and to partner with also, which is also relevant when you like want to roll out the taxonomy or introduce it as part of a research repository. So as a side effect. Okay, let's move on to principle 4, which is, I would say, like a good practice to be aware of and to use especially when you're getting started with the taxonomy, and that helps you to keep the taxonomy more manageable. So what do we mean by that? So we would want to share the tip to use to work with collector tags. You can think of it, or think of a collector tag as like a collector for relevant information around a certain area, like for example, the competition or like feature requests. So like a bucket that collects information around that. And like with this tip, you can make it easy to get started. So like the opposite of that would be to start with listing all relevant or also like all competitors out there, and having maybe a list of, I don't know, 20 or more tags already when you get started. But you could also do it like for the really most important ones, or just start with a bucket, so with the collector tag. And then when you have research data already in there and collected some information within that bucket, you can take a step back and use that to reflect on what you really need or how you want to evolve your taxonomy. So like this is also when we come back to our like first principle, that this is like an organism, so it will change. And you can then, when you have the structure to to work with it in a flexible way, you can split it up and like separate like the most frequently mentioned competitor out of that bucket, or feature request that was that came up in a lot of research sessions, and like highlight it with a separate tag. This helps you to keep a better overview of your tags and to keep it more manageable in the beginning. And also, like when you see to, this also helps you to like have hundreds of tags with only like one or two pieces of information. So this will really help you to keep it structured and keep an overview in your taxonomy.
Which brings us to principle 5, which is use multi-tagging. Super important. Sina, if you can share the next slide. Yes. So one of the things is by using multiple tags, you can actually make the data that's in your research repository more accessible, more searchable, findable for the team. Essentially, the goal is to make, that's the point of the repository, is start to surface the data. And so when you tag one insight, one piece of data with more tags, you can search from it, find it from different perspectives. The screenshot is actually an example. When we were mapping out our taxonomy at User Interviews for the first time, we actually did a report of recent customer feedback. And we started to really bucket and play around with the taxonomy. And so this is just 2 pieces of feedback, and we ended up applying multiple tags to different pieces of feedback. So what we did is we marked like specific product areas. We also thought about steps of the user journey, whether something was a bug or like usability issue, so that we could find it from all different angles. That's just something to think about, just to make sure your information is findable. And then on the back end, when you start to set up your taxonomy, your repository, and you're actually running reporting, analytics, and insights, you can start to surface the data, see trends over time for the different tags, multi-tags that you have, and then also consider it in your storytelling, as well as you're sharing the insights that you're learning with your team.
Okay, let's take a moment and do a little recap here to wind down our time we had together, and to have enough time to answer some questions and do a Q&A as well. So we really want to like highlight why we think it's important to create a taxonomy that is flexible and works for your setting. So it will, like an effective taxonomy will help you to make user research data valuable outside the scope of a single study, as it allows you to find existing research data and to access it later. And to sum up our 5 principles, so we really want to share with you that we think it's important to be aware of like the taxonomies are almost like living or breathing organisms who will evolve and change over time. And then to really include the people who will actually use the taxonomy, so like your internal users as well, and also reflect or include their context, so they are embedded in an organization and work in different teams, business lines, also have maybe like internal vocabulary they use, and bring in that perspective as well. And to really like keep it easy and manageable to, especially in the beginning, we think it's a good way to start working with collector tags, also when like a new theme comes up, to just like start collecting information about it and then see how this evolves, and change it whenever it's needed, when you get collect too much information into one collector tag, or you see that there's like you need to split it up because there's actually 2 themes in this collector tag. And as the last principle, we really want to highlight to include multiple tags and really think of the different perspectives people may look after certain research data, research material, and how they will be able to find it. And you use multiple tags, and you can bring in the different perspectives how people might access that information. So we prepared something to take away for you as well. So we will share the recording, but also like a worksheet with you, and that you can, where you can find a little summary of our points, and also an additional checklist or a list of like that helps you to guide you through the process of creating your taxonomy. So there you will find like a list with questions to ask yourself when you're in the process of building your own taxonomy. Cool. Thanks so much for listening until here. We do have more time for questions. Just go into the chat.
We have the first question that came up is, what classifications would you say are common and cross-applicable to different research projects, allowing you to capture the most common needs in UX research? Sina, did you want to take that, or did you want? Yeah,
just need to reread it. So I think also for research projects, so if they are around it, like different themes, this will be different, to be honest. Like it will be, it's not that easy to answer, actually.
Yeah, I definitely think it's gonna vary. I think, like we mentioned, the taxonomy will definitely depend on different organizations. At User Interviews, we're very interesting because we have a research platform. Our research team is researching how people do research. So our taxonomy is very meta in that sense. We actually have tags that outline the different steps of the research process that researchers go through, participants go through. I think I've seen examples of taxonomies from the research operations community, the Slack community, and some common themes that I've seen have been things like bug requests, usability issues that are pretty common. Again, it's going to depend on your organization. In our taxonomy, we have a section dedicated to the researcher experience and participant experience, because that's what our product is. If you're a product on cleaning solutions, you will have likely some tags about the cleaning experience for your product or whatever it might be. We also do have tags as well related to like the type of studies that we run. Was it a one-on-one interview? Was it a usability study? That may change over time too, depending upon the reporting that we have. As well. So I think it's really going to depend on your organization.
Yeah, and like also like what we were like mostly speaking about was like a taxonomy that allows you to discover and like track information that is relevant beyond a single study. So this is like also a way you can work with tags in a taxonomy to think of like what is like this overarching these global tags. This is how we call it in Condens, where you can track from different projects, but also like have something which is only like within a project, and where you collect like or use the taxonomy only for that specific project, to split it up in that way and to adapt it there. Okay. Then question 2. I'll just read it. I'm curious about how to budget time and care and feeding of the living organism that is the taxonomy, and how you can balance different pace layers in the taxonomy.
That's a great question. I can take a stab in answering it, Sina, if that helps. Yeah, this is something we're starting to think about on our team. We're a team of 3 at User Interviews. We have a research operations manager, myself, and then a user researcher. So our research operations manager has been really helping get our research repository off the ground. Our repository, our taxonomy is really interesting, and our repository is really interesting because we house active insights and passive insights. What that means is active insights are from research studies that are happening now. Our user researcher goes out, has a research question, picks their method, gathers the data. Passive studies we define as not actively going out and collecting ourselves, but maybe it's a survey that's longstanding, but we're receiving the information. We're not actively going out and gathering it ourselves. And so our taxonomy is robust to cover both of those types of studies and both of those types of questions. What we've noticed is that our passive taxonomy is changing more rapidly than our active research because passive insights are scaling as the business scales. We get hundreds, thousands per week, whereas there is a finite limit on the number of research studies that we can conduct with one full-time user researcher, or maybe another person. And so that feeding, that massaging of that organism for passive is taking more time, rapidly iterating. Typically, we actually check on it, our taxonomy, our research repository every single day. We look at the data that's coming in. We see, does this make sense? Do we need to set up rules, make it go somewhere else? And then, yeah, we're setting up rules, we're cleaning it out. I'd say probably last week we made a whole nother section of our taxonomy. But some weeks we don't touch it at all. So it really depends. Yeah, it depends on the insights that you're receiving.
Thanks for taking this one. I just needed to think about it for a second. Yeah, so I think it's also it's important to, especially when you're in the beginning and you really want to involve your organization or other stakeholders, that you really take the time to do a workshop together and collect what you want to achieve with the taxonomy. And by that I mean what do you want to get out of having a repository with a good taxonomy. So to make this collaborative and bring together the different perspectives, and then in the best case to go out with I would say a really basic set of tag groups to get started. So something like you want to track feature requests, or you want to track usability issues, or you want to track information about competition. Just create those areas and don't get too specific in that moment. But use it as a set to get started, I would say. And then really bring in real raw research data, and do an evaluation a few weeks after you really started to work with it, and see how it does work for you as active researchers who use it every day, or every day when they are conducting research or analyzing research data, and also for people who use the taxonomy to find information and get their feedback on that. And then you will see maybe there are topics where you have collected a lot of information already, and you need to really get more specific and split it up, maybe split up the whole topic, or do something groups below the topic to keep track of. And also maybe that you will find that there are areas you did not find anything until that. But it's a moment where you need to reflect, okay, is this something we just don't get via our research, or we need to think of another way to make sure to be aware of that topic, or to expand research data that comes in to gather research data there, as this was something that you wanted to focus on from the initial workshop. So I think to get started in or collectively find the main topics and then like do an evaluation a few weeks or maybe 3 months after to really work with it is like a good approach to work with that. And also like the question was about finding the time and also the budget. So I think like when you work with the concept of having something that is for like the global themes or like overarching themes, this is where you can like follow the approach I just described. And then you can also split up like project specific themes from that taxonomy where you don't need to like involve everyone from all departments and like do an evaluation, but can really do it as the researcher team and change it if you need it. Okay, should we go on to the next question? How do you rank feedback, insights, opportunities based on how important the issue is? What do you base that ranking on? Okay, so I think it also, typical answer, it depends on like how you want to rank it or how you want to keep track of that, or also like if you want to make that part of your taxonomy, or if this is like additional information that is not a part of the taxonomy, or like where you like don't think about like Roberta, do you have any opinions on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really is going to depend. So one thing I'm thinking about right now with our research repository, I'm already talking with our leadership team around Q3. So what are we going to focus on in July to start the product teams? Like what opportunities there? And so some of the things that we're actually doing is running reporting to see frequency of themes in the opportunity areas. That's one way that we can start to prioritize opportunities that the team could work on. High frequency area with a lot of tags. We have 5,000 insights related to this one product area. Maybe we should start to prioritize that. At the same time, we also have other things that we take into consideration. What is the team already working on right now? Like there's just a lot of different data points we're pulling from. So I think that is one thing to keep in mind as you're thinking about your feedback, insights, opportunities. The research repository and taxonomy is one data point. You're also going to be looking at things like behavioral data, customer support tickets, if that's one data point, and mapping that all together and saying, what is the holistic picture of what our team should focus on and prioritizing that. Sometimes our team uses opportunity solution trees from Teresa Torres as a way of like mapping out and seeing the structure. There's lots of different like frameworks that you can think about for that. So it really depends.
But if there are multiple teams working on different projects where some tags don't make sense for all of the teams, if you have 4 teams with different taxonomies, how can you tie them all together? I'm thinking granular taxonomies and global ones. Do you want to answer or should I? Yeah.
I can give a stab. Yeah, the consolidated question for that is like, how do you manage a repository if you have multiple taxonomies? I know someone in the chat mentioned like an agency or maybe a large company with multiple teams. We have 3 people on our team, 2 different products. We're managing different taxonomies within our taxonomy. So we have insight that comes in. It might not apply to one of our product areas. So we simply just don't tag the insight with that. Not every insight that you get will be tagged with every single label or tag that you have. That's okay. I think what it comes down to, the question of managing the different taxonomies, really comes back to the beginning phase. What is your intention for the taxonomy? How many taxonomies do you want? How is it being managed? Who are your stakeholders on your team that you're working with for it? that'll really define how you go about managing the process, how frequently you're updating it. You may decide that you have a global taxonomy, and then there's individual areas in your taxonomy for different product areas. When you get a piece of feedback from that area, you just tag it for that. That's okay. But all of that strategy will come from those initial conversations with your stakeholders.
Yeah, true. And like where you also like discuss if there's something that is really like you want to keep track of as the whole organization. So like this global taxonomy where you really need to involve like everyone, and to find like which areas do you want to keep separate from that. This could be like different teams managing their own taxonomy around like different products or services within your organization, but also with like really projects which are in the discovery phase, where you don't really know where this goes, and you need to like be more flexible and to really be open and see where this will take you also with the taxonomy. So to think of what to really like agree on as an organization, and what to like keep separate, yeah, or not tied to that from the beginning, to be clear about that.
Absolutely. The next question that we have is there a certain number of tags that a category should have before it becomes unwieldy? Is there a rule of thumb for how many subtags a category should have before it becomes a separate category? Sina, do you have any recommendation? I knew you did. I was like, you can totally go with
that. Yeah. Yes, like I think there's probably like a number where you have a feeling like, okay, now is a good time to split it up. And also like I really like got information about that a lot, and I think like common recommendations are around like 15 to 20. So like this starts to like really make you think of when you want to like just use it as an evaluation of moment where you can go through all the data and see, okay, is this really like all within that same bucket, or do we need to like split it, and also like to keep the overview of what are you tagging with the taxonomy. So this could be something like where you just use it as a first moment of like evaluation, and then yeah, also like it depends on the topic, like how like specific you tag something. So like if it's like a super, I would say super clear feature request or something where you have it on your roadmap, and but you want to keep track of that as well, so you don't need to split it up as it's really like when it's well captured. So like then you don't need to think of that that number, I would say, but like use it as like, I don't know, when you get a few like 20 or something as a moment of like evaluation on consider if this is like the right scope for that tag, I would say. But then you definitely can keep tag more and more, and like also like if you use it for a longer time, so there will be more within that.
I had as you were saying that, Sina, I was looking at our spreadsheet with our taxonomy, and I was like, we definitely have more than 20. We started off pretty like smaller with it. We started off with like probably 20, 30, and it's evolved since then. We have subcategories that have like kind of come out in the structure too. So it'll evolve over time for sure. You may notice too that maybe you retire some tags or merge some tags or subtags together as well. So having that flexibility with the tool that you choose will be really helpful, as we mentioned before.
And also like I think we need to add like this will be different for like new projects, and also like for the tags that you agreed on as like the organization, where you collect from a lot of different projects, different sources where feedback comes in and over a longer time. So yeah, there's like another number for that, I would say, which is probably a lot higher.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
We have a 3-part question to wrap up with from the team. it goes, how do you prove out ROI for taxonomy? Do we have any KPIs? And how do you pitch the build out of a repository? So we'll kind of chunk these out a little bit, but how do you prove out ROI for the build out of a taxonomy?
So actually, so I would say like, if it lets you find existing research data. So I mean, like your repository contains all that information. And if the taxonomy really is a tool for you that helps you to find that information when you look for specific themes or keywords or methods. So like if it works for you as a tool to really make use of what is there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of the things that I did, I joined the user interviews team back in July 2021. So when I was onboarding, I did actually a study for our team to figure out just the maturity, and insights management, knowledge management came up as the top opportunity area for our team. So that really helped me build out like the use case of why it was important. I also partnered with our product team. They were speaking about the need for the taxonomy for the repository as well. Some things that we looked at is just, hey, we're always jumping into studies, like research studies. Shouldn't we make this more accessible, findable for people? Maybe we don't need to do a study if we already have the data. We also have an amazing support team who's constantly giving us feedback. And they were feeling like all the feedback they were giving products, UX team was kind of getting lost. So all those things considered really turned into like a wonderful use case for the team on why it was important to focus on this thing for this moment of time. And so we actually started in January this year, really going like intensely into building our repository, and we've come a long way very quickly. For KPIs, it was interesting for us really thinking about what the use cases was and success. I thought about qualitative and quant metrics. So from a qualitative side, I want my team to be happy with our repository. I want them to be able to interact with it. It's easy to use, it's helpful. So we're doing like benchmarking surveys to just understand like satisfaction with the repository. And doing it at little interval timeframes to see how it changes over time. Quantitatively, seeing if there's interaction. Who has claimed a login for a repository? Everyone has read-only access. We're currently housing data there. X out of X people on the team have claimed logged in. We can see what reports are like most interacted with. So those are great like quant metrics to see how people are actually using it and interacting with it. So yeah.
So like when speaking about like KPIs, I think like I make or like an important component of that is like are you using like all the tags you have there, like to do a check on that, and also like to see if you have like how quick you can find the tag you want to use, and how easy it is for when you're in the process of tagging to find like the tags you want to apply there. There's also like one part which you can involve like here on the qual side as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great.
Awesome. Well, that was the last question for today. We really appreciate everyone that was able to join today for the session. We'll be sending the follow-up materials, the worksheets, the links to the slide over email. But we really appreciate you joining us today, chatting, all of your engaging questions as well.
Thank you so much for joining, and have a nice day or evening, morning, wherever you are.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. Nice speaking with you and doing this together.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.